So my name is Ross Gardiner. I'm the editor-at-large for MG Magazine. We are the cannabis industry's biggest business magazine. I cover retail, brands, MSOs, sales, marketing, all kinds of things. But I am also a co-founder and head of marketing for Ciencia Labs. Later on today, they're going to be presenting on this stage at 4 p.m. Very interesting house of brands in California. You should come and check that out if you are looking for interesting companies to learn about. Anyway, I'm very, very excited about this next conversation. I've been looking forward to it for a couple of weeks. Ed Schmults, is the CEO of Statehouse, which is the new holding company which rolled up Harborside, Urban Leaf, Loud Pack, and Sublime. Really big, sort of iconic California names there. The company is now the number 3 ranked brand house in California by market share across multiple SKUs, and it's the number 3 retail platform in California. Ed himself has had a long and storied career in corporate leadership, playing an integral role in the growth of a handful of great American companies. And he takes the reins at Statehouse at a moment of considerable change both for the company and for California as well. The company is currently navigating this complex amalgamation of these lots of different great businesses together to create one of the state's biggest vertical operators. Now, we know that a lot of people at this conference seem to have written off California a little bit, or you've got some doubts, but Ed and I are going to be talking to you a little bit today about why you're wrong, and about why California still has an active role to play in the leadership of the cannabis industry. So, Ed, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So why don't you start maybe by just walking us through your career to date, maybe pit stopping every now and again at a place where your experience is relevant to the job you hold today.
Sure. So I kind of have an odd career, not particularly linear. I started at Goldman Sachs in New York and London, and then went to Patagonia, not a common career shift. I had some friends who were trying to do an intervention to stop me from leaving Wall Street. But I shed my suit for a wetsuit, moved to California, and Patagonia is an iconic outdoor brand. I learned a lot about retail, about brands, about product quality there. And my team has heard a lot of Patagonia over the years, and most recently the months at Statehouse, because I think there are a lot of parallels with cannabis. You know, in cannabis culture, you have OGs, and then you have all other lesser beings, right? At Patagonia, you had dirtbags. A dirtbag was a man or a woman who, lived in Yosemite, climbed 340 days a year, got their clothes from a secondhand shop, and ate out of a dumpster. That is literally the highest accolade you could get at Patagonia. And if you think about it, that's who they made clothes for. That person who understood why a hood needs to fit a certain way when you're ice climbing to keep the water and ice chips from getting in your, in your neck and down your clothes. So its sole focus on functionality was so important. And Patagonia's secret to success was they were able to combine the dirtbags and the business people. And I think that's a recipe for successful cannabis companies to follow, is the suits and the stoners. How do you get them to mix together to create a company that has affection and appreciation for the plant, but the ability to scale, attract capital, and build efficient businesses? So I treasure my Patagonia days. Sadly, I was not a dirtbag, but I did surf, so I was deemed okay. Then I was at Red Envelope, the catalog and internet gift retailer, so it taught me a lot about e-commerce. I went to FAO Schwartz, the fabled toy retailer, where I learned a lot about big retail, and we were a pioneer in experiential retail. We had adopt a baby doll. A lot of families with the pregnant mom were there with the soon-to-be big sister or big brother, and we had doctors and nurses, and the family would adopt a baby and fill out a birth certificate, and you'd see family members in tears. And typical retail, you think about that retailer maybe over the life of that product, it declines over time, but that experience lasts a lifetime. And so establishing those emotional connections with customers is something I think we can touch on a little bit later, but I think it's so important in really great retailing. And then, a little bit about me personally. I had some good fortune to be around really great leaders early in my career. They were all level-headed and calm, no matter how good or how bad the situation was. I'm also fairly relentless. I rowed in college at a pretty high level, and if you know rowing, you got 8 guys in a boat, and no matter how tired you are, you cannot stop. Whether it's a race or practice, you just have to be in complete tune with the rest of your team and move together as one, and no matter how much it hurts. So I think that it's all in the head, right? That mental attitude to achieve. I hate to lose at the end of the day, but I know that you only win with your team. Extremely important to me, to the people around me that I trust. I hire really good people, and then I try to get out of their way.
I was going to say, I think that your relentless drive to survive and continue and push forward will probably hold you in good stead in California.
I think so.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about the company today? Tell me a little bit about each of these individual entities and what the thinking was for the parent company in rolling these specific companies up, and what you're trying to achieve as a big vertical player in California.
Sure. Let me start with the second part of that. So the thesis was that scale was important in California. We could spread corporate overhead across more sales and become efficient. Being vertical was important to control your supply chain, control your own destiny, and really get gross margin gains, particularly with product we grow, manufacture, and sell on our own retail stores. And I'm pleased to say we're exceeding our expectations. We're getting mid-70s gross margins in California for our own private label brands in our stores. And last week we had record gross margins in our retail stores, and we're tracking to exceed that this week. So that private label thesis is really proving out. We also believed we could attract capital, and I know Rob from Polaris, I think, is speaking right after this. We were able to work financing with Polaris, terrific lender for us. We have a great relationship with Rob and Travis, and we're able to raise $77 million in capital. And then I also think being the scale that we had and the opportunities ahead of us, it's helped us attract a really strong team of people at the end of the day. So we put Sublime, great infused pre-roll, likely invented that strong category in California. Harborside, transitioning from a strong advocacy organization to a real profit-driven public company with strong retail assets in Northern California and a terrific grow in Salinas. Urban Leaf with 7, now 8 stores in Southern California. And then Loudpack, the brand engine and the manufacturing engine. We put all those together. The integration, I think we're largely done with the integration. Now we're optimizing the businesses and really driving significant efficiencies to the bottom line. The retail engine is driving cash to the bottom line, and the brand engine is a growth vehicle in the near term and the midterm.
And so talk to me a little bit about this integration, because obviously as consolidation becomes much more common and prevalent across the country, being able to put together teams like this is going to be, make or break for a lot of these companies as they try and roll things up. So what have you guys learned as you've been doing this, and what are some of the pitfalls you maybe would advise other companies to try and avoid?
It's really freaking hard. I think that's the lesson. Big challenges around cultures, trying to mix these cultures together. Tough to talk about your core mission and your values when you're laying off people at a company. So that's been a real challenge. How do you get people to let go of what was and hold on to what can be in the future? And that sounds like a slogan on a poster on a wall, but that's really important, is to get people to be able to manage that transition and to create a vision that, hey, together we're going after something better. And the only way we're going to get that is to do it together. So that's been the biggest challenge. Moving operational assets, combining them into one is relatively easy. But the harder part are the people and the cultural aspects, to really get them to gel and form a team and move forward. Super challenging.
Yeah, as it relates to California, obviously the market's having a little bit of a tough time right now. That's fairly well known to anybody who's watching the industry. But therein lies opportunities, always. Obviously, you guys have a lot of positive momentum with your growth right now. So where do you see the opportunities in California, and how do you potentially see things shaking out in the next 6 to 12 months?
So yeah, California, everyone complains about it, right? Oh my gosh, competition, regulation, taxes, illicit market. I think every state has the first three. And if competition isn't fierce yet, it will be. So California, I think, is sort of the future, the crystal ball, if you will. The illicit market, though, is different in California. It may be more akin to Oregon or Washington. There was a big expose in the LA Times last weekend, which maybe we'll do something and get the state to really begin to crack down on the illicit market. But that's a big challenge, tough enough to compete with a lot of you here in the audience, and then to have to compete with someone who's got a 25% price advantage and likely more. But it's horrific how they treat people. They dump stuff on the environment, and then you may be buying weed on the street corner that's been sprayed with DDT, and yet you smoke that and think you're smart to be saving money. So I think the industry can do some good by maybe instituting a public service campaign with the state to encourage people to go to a licensed store and to make those smart decisions. In California right now, a lot of new retail stores are coming on. I think we're likely in a negative comp store growth environment for a few years in California. Having said that, I still really like retail. We're looking at some acquisitions in retail in geographies where we don't currently compete. It's a brand outpost. It's a potential vehicle, if the demographics are right around the store, to serve our existing customers with home delivery. I think there's a lot of benefit to being in a community with one of our stores there and playing a role in that community. I really see the growth engine, though, the company being our branded products. 122 new stores opened in California the first half of this year. I think on the upcoming election, there's maybe up to 250 retail locations are on the ballot. So if you assume the majority of those pass, that's a lot of shelf space that needs good brands. And you know, the bar in California, with so many brands, there are a lot of operators trying hard but just not able to execute consistently. The bar is really consistent, reliable supply to those retailers with a clarity around what the brand stands for. And that's what we're executing every day.
Excellent. So you touched a little on retail there and new retail opportunities, but I want to go back to a little bit about what you learned about experiential and about giving people great customer service and about how to do retail in a way that it leaves an imprint on someone so that they will keep coming back or they never forget that experience. Because as we know, it's extremely important in cannabis, because if you fuck that up, the person may never walk back into a dispensary again.
Yeah.
So how is Statehouse thinking about these?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? To speak in a sophisticated fashion to the OG, and also to be able to accommodate and not make the newbie feel insecure or bad. And we train our staff to do that. And I think we do a pretty good job. We've got, I think, 5-star reviews consistently over time. Although showing the power of the illicit market, at least once a month, someone writes a 1-star review and saying, "This company sucks, they charge tax." And you know, there's an example of that customer, for better or worse, is used to going to the illicit market, a store, and thinks that maybe we're choosing to charge tax, and we can't do that. So I think retail is having the right collection of brands, first of all. It's communicating with that customer before they get to the store, while they're in the store, and on their way out. A wise person told me once, good retail does slow what needs to be slow and does fast what needs to be fast. And I think that is very powerful and very simple, as the best concepts often are. We try to make sure we have the hot brands that people come in. Do you have this brand? Yes, great. And then what else can we provide around that to raise our basket size and to enhance their experience? Right now, we're about 36% of our sales are our own private label brands with those robust margins. We're going to get that to 40 to 45%, but any higher than that, I think you detract from the overall retail experience. Retail is about discovery. It's about finding brands you haven't seen, whether they're local brands, LGBTQ brands, something new and hot that's coming up. And we're going to look to invest the time and effort to support new brands, to showcase exclusive products from existing brands, give people a reason to come to our shop and over again, make it a habit, not a one-off experience.
For any of you MSOs in the limited market states there, you can't just sell your own products all the time. You have to sell other people's products too. So on this last point about, I wanted to talk about California's role as a leader. It has been the leader, I think, undeniably for the last, say, 25 years or however long the illegal market's been in some form. Do you think it still has the capacity to lead from the front? And what do you think that looks like? And how does Statehouse play a role in it?
Yeah, investors look at California and they see all these challenges. Customers don't appreciate that, right? It's California. The Beatles sang about California grass. Justin Bieber apparently gets his weed in California, as the song says. So it continues to resonate in popular culture, and I think it's the best brand in cannabis, California. We were talking earlier, and I made the point that, great surf brands come from Florida and California and Hawaii and Australia. They don't come from Ohio, right? Ohio's known for a lot of things, but people don't surf.
Right.
Some people probably do on Lake Erie, but anyway,
Yeah.
Iowa, how about that? So I think California, it is really tough right now. Right? You have to be innovative. You have to segment your brands clearly. You have to be relentless in your deliveries. You have to have smart promotional strategies. But as you think about it, hardship and adversity are the crucible that make things great, right? Whether it's evolution, whether it's sports or art or relationships, it's that in the times of adversity, you know what you have, and your team knows what they're capable of doing. So I think brands that survive and thrive California, some of them will be kingmakers in the national cannabis market and be able to capitalize on their innovation and their executional prowess and their location in California to project that out across the country.
Ed, fantastic. Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us. Please, everybody, Ed Schmults. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, man.